we've had the opportunity to think about some pretty heavy things so far today, spiritually and intellectually, and now part of what we want to try to do is encourage one another about how do we put our feet on the ground, how do we move forward, what do we do, how do we do that in a way consistent with who we want to be, and Sarah's going to help us with that. Sara Melton is the Managing Director of Organizing for Power Interfaith, the largest faith-based grassroots organizing effort in the state of Pennsylvania. She oversees the organizing happening across the state, from Lancaster to Philadelphia, and is also the lead on all state-level work in Harrisburg. Sara brings 12 years of faith-based community organizing experience to her presentation today, and prior to her role at Power, she was the campaign manager for Faith in Action's National Immigrant Rights Campaign, and we're really glad that with all those obstacles in your way today, you're able to be with us. Sara, thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And you're just flexibility and some grace. I heard you all talking about grace when I walked in. My childcare fell short very suddenly. So here we are. So we're gonna roll. All right. So I'm Sara Melton, as Reverend introduced me. But before I share a little bit more about what I'm going to talk about today, maybe just like if you haven't heard this term popcorn style, just shout out one word. Maybe just like, how's your spirit doing?
Good.
Good?
Tired.
Tired. Yeah, a little tired.
Troubled.
Troubled. Thirsty. Metaphorically, physically, literally, metaphorically. Okay, great. I'm like, we have some water. Okay, excellent. Others? This is going to be interactive hour, y'all.
Wondering.
Wondering?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Pensive, contemplative. Okay, all right. Well, thank you all. So as Reverend Sumi introduced me, I am Sara Melton. I have been organizing for over 12 years. And I'm here today to talk about one-to-ones, which is the building block of community organizing. It is the building block of what we call power, building power for our communities. But I was thinking on the way here a little bit about when I first started doing one-to-ones. And I'll talk a little bit what they are, but you could see on the slide. They are essentially sacred conversations, one-on-one, one person to one person. That's what the term is. And when I first started doing them 12 years ago, I had my mentor, my organizing mentor, was like, one-to-ones are how we build power. And when we build enough power is how we are able to change things in the public arena, change laws, change policies, change the structures that are set up to oppress many of us. And I was like, that's insane. That doesn't make any sense to me. How could talking to people one-on-one do that? That doesn't make it, literally didn't believe her. I just was like, how is talking to people in a coffee shop going to change the world? I just didn't fundamentally understand it. But I suspended disbelief. You know, when you go to the movies, you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. I was like, all right, I'm just going to put all that skepticism aside, and I'm going to try it on. And so I started doing one-to-ones. I started talking to people in Las Cruces, New Mexico, where I was organizing. Started sharing my story, listening to theirs. And I was organizing around a campaign to raise the minimum wage. And at the time, my dad had just lost his job as a factory worker at Entenmann's. And so it was like this moment where I was fighting for minimum wage in the city of Las Cruces, but my dad was looking for lower paying work in New York. And I was like, these things are tied together, right? And so I was sharing my story about what that was like to worry about my father and his wages. And I was listening to other people's stories about their concerns for either themselves or their loved ones. And I was going to coffee shops. I was sitting in people's living rooms. I was at church offices. I was after church and in fellowship halls like this, talking to people, suspending my disbelief that it would do anything besides be kind of fun for me because I'm an extrovert and I enjoy talking to people. And then we had to launch our campaign. And my boss said, how many people are going to come? And I said, 5, I don't know. And I had been talking to all these people all over town. And we launched the campaign and 50 people showed up. 50 people who didn't know each other, 50 people who shared one thing in common, which was they wanted to raise wages in the city of Las Cruces. And that 50 people grew over time, and suddenly I understood the power of it. Like when city council was trying to gut our bill and I was on the phone calling all the people I spoke to in the last 6 months, people were showing up to City Hall in droves and bringing others. And suddenly it made sense to me what she said. I was like, oh, when we share one-on-one my story and I get vulnerable and you share yours, something really sacred happens. Suddenly we don't feel so alone. Suddenly the structures and systems that are set up to hurt us and harm us in public, what I call public life, the rules, the laws, the policies, plenty going on in the country right now to point to, the things that cause us harm and make us feel like we're alone in that, and it's just us. Suddenly I was like, I'm not alone. Other people share these same concerns. And not only am I not alone, it's not just me, it's not my fault, it's not my dad's fault, it's not my family's fault, something else is at play here. And suddenly I didn't feel alone and scared and isolated and angry. That's how I felt before. Angry, isolated. And that's a breeding ground for what? Hatred. Yeah. Despair. What we see a lot of going on in our country right now. People turning against each other, right? It's a breeding ground for that kind of stuff. So instead of feeling lonely and angry and scared and confused, I felt like I was in a community of people who wanted to do something together about it, who were being courageous. It was the bravest I ever felt. Being courageous in a group, who had my back. And like, we also got to have an imagination and a vision for what kind of city we wanted to live in. How did we want wages to be set here? We were like having the audacity to decide that and put a plan. But I only had that kind of audacity because I talked to hundreds of people, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about sacred conversations and one-to-ones today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what is a one-to-one? It is what we call a natural but uncommon conversation with someone you want to know better. It's about their values, their vision, their life, and their motivations for wanting change. And it takes courage, hey, honey, and curiosity to do a one-to-one. So let's unpack this for a second. It is natural but uncommon. Why is what I've described to you sound uncommon?
You probably get stranger.
Yeah, you're talking to a stranger. Yeah. But you talk to strangers in the grocery store, don't you? Yeah. So why does this feel uncommon? What about this feels different? There's more vulnerability in this. Yeah. Yeah, that's what makes it very uncommon. It's like you're sitting down with someone you haven't met before and you're going to a much deeper, you're trying to meet them much more deeper than a surface level chit chat. Like, oh my gosh, can you believe the prices? Right? Like something deeper. But notice it's natural. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so why we do one-to-ones. So in organizing, we do one-to-ones to do a couple things. And you don't have to all understand all this. Today's top lines. But predominantly to build relationships. In organizing, our relationships are the source of our power. To identify other community leaders. I myself, when I ran that campaign, we won. We raised the wages in the city of Las Cruces. Workers are making way more money now than they were a few years ago. But that was only possible not because of just me, but because many other people got an invitation to public leadership, right? But we had to find those people because they're not the ones already at the front holding the microphone. We have to make new leaders. We have to invite other people into leadership. Surface issues. So we're going to talk about your I know you're all are embarking on some listening campaigns in your own congregations. So sometimes when you start in a community organizing, you're looking for what's the pain point here? What are people wrestling and struggling with? What's going on in this congregation? What is most relevant to folks' lives? We already talked about public leaders, making propositions. That's an invitation into leadership. So I might say, I really want to invite you to speak at the rally. I would do that in a one-to-one, right? So you're making an invitation into leadership. Or I want you to join this core team to do the listening with me, right? And then these last two are more for an organizer, right? But we're sharpening our analysis of what's happening in the community and our power understanding of the community. And we're gathering information so we can be better informed. Okay, go ahead. Thank you. Okay, So what makes one-to-ones different than chit-chat in the grocery aisle, okay, is a couple things. They are scheduled in advance. They're not just like happen over coffee at the fellowship hour, okay? Other people have to know we're in a one-to-one together. So you call them or text them and you invite them to come sit down for a conversation. They are best done face-to-face. We are most human with each other when we are in person with each other. If that's not possible for your community, you can do Zoom, like a Zoom one-to-one. But I would not do it over the phone. If we're building relationships, seeing people's faces is important. And they last about 45 to 60 minutes long. This is not a hard and fast rule, but like, right, if you're spending 3 hours with someone, you've probably veered off the path of deep conversation and into some gossip or chit chat or how's the weather, right? You've probably gone astray, okay? And if it's only 20 minutes, did you really get to know them? Right? So that's like a marker for you to have some sense. But so this last part on the slide, on the far left of the slide, is probably the most important. It is mostly a one-way conversation. So here's what I mean. If you are the person calling folks in your congregation to go do one-to-ones, you are there to mostly listen to them. And you are going to practice deep curiosity about the person in front of you. You should do 70% of your time, you should be listening. But like it's not 90, notice it's like 95 to 5 because it's also not an interview, right? It's like if you're going to ask people vulnerable questions and ask them to be vulnerable, you better be vulnerable first, right? Put some vulnerability on the line. So 30% of the time is like you relating to what the other person is saying, but also sharing a bit of your story and why you're even doing this, right? What I have found, I started off today, you noticed I shared my story. When we share our vulnerabilities, others will give them back. Right? But we have to put an offering on the table. We can't, I'm just rocking with nothing. You can't expect someone to share vulnerabilities with you when like they don't know, right? Unless you make an offering. You got to put yourself out there. That's why it takes courage. Okay. You can change the slide. Thank you. So here's what they are not. One-to-ones, what they are not. This is important. They are not a sales pitch. You are not selling some cool idea about whatever it is, your organization, your ministry. It doesn't matter. You're not selling nothing. That's not the point. If it feels like a sales pitch, you should notice that in your gut and change it up the next time, okay? It is not therapy. You are not this person's therapist. I don't know, maybe some of you are qualified for that, but it's not the right container for it. It's not the right boundaries. It is not an interview. It's not a job interview or a radio interview. It is not a needs assessment. You're not showing up with a clipboard with a laundry list of things you're asking about. That's not what this is. It is not scripted. You do not want to sound like a robot in this. You want to sound human, like a human relating to other humans. How many of you relate to other humans? You guys raise your hand. Okay, so we all know how to do that, right? Like we all know how to be human. So that's like what this is, okay? I have here follow the breadcrumbs. You want to prep some, especially if you're doing this in a systematic way, which I think some of you are going to think about how to listen in your congregations. So you might want to have some questions and things you're curious about naturally. So when I was walking around town doing one-to-ones around the minimum wage campaign, I was curious about people's wages and the economic conditions of people in Las Cruces. So I was asking questions around that, right? But it wasn't like, if I didn't ask this question, I failed the thing, or I have to get my 5 questions in. You follow like your natural, like follow the breadcrumbs. Someone says this thing, I grew up here. You're like, oh, that's interesting. What? You're following the breadcrumbs that they're dropping for you and getting deeply curious. It is not a script. So you want to have something prepared, but if you come off scripted, what are you going to feel like? What's that going to feel like? An interview, robotic. The other person's probably going to feel real weird, right? Like it's not. It doesn't feel human, right? We like miss the divine opportunity to connect with each other. It is not chit chat. It's not gossip. It's not. Sometimes you do one-to-ones with people you already know. It's like all the other stuff you're going to talk about later, just like put it on the side. This is a conversation to really understand what is at the heart of somebody's motivations in organizing for change. What are the things that they want for themselves and their family in this lifetime? What are the things they're wrestling with and being hurt by and struggling by? That's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. And it is not preaching or lecturing. This is not the time. Okay, there's spaces for that in the world. This isn't it, right? Because how does it feel when you go to have coffee and someone just lectures at you the whole time? How would that feel? Big thumbs down there over there. Yeah, right? Would you want to come back and do it again? No. Would you say yes to that ever again? No. Would you tell people in your congregation to take the meeting with this person? No. Right? Okay. Go ahead. Thanks. So here's what they require of us, and we've touched on this a little bit. So the person doing the one-to-one and the person, receiving it, we have to have an incredible amount of curiosity and vulnerability to do this. That's what it requires of you. You have to be so deeply curious about another person that you're willing to share a little bit about yourself in hopes they share back. And that you also are going to have the courage to ask questions that normally we're not supposed to ask. I'm not supposed to get up here and talk to you about how I was worried about my dad in a public space. That's a little weird, right? Like a little uncommon. But we do it because there's a lot of, I know there's hundreds of other people in that same position. And sharing that helps de-shame things. Like we're wading into very sacred space. It's like if I share my pain, I de-shame yours. And you might feel the space to share it back. And now we're actually seeing each other as people for what could be more sacred than that, right? So it requires curiosity on your part and also some courage and some vulnerable. And so there's some things that might keep you from doing one-to-ones, right? So you might be like, oh, really squirming in your shoes already. Like, oh God, I don't know if I could do that. Like some fear around your own vulnerabilities and sharing them. The second bullet's really important. Judgment kills curiosity. If I have a judgment about something, about you, about something, I have already killed all my curiosity about it because I've already decided what it is. I've already decided I know you and know everything about you because I have a judgment. It kills any room for curiosity to breathe. Now, we all have judgments. We're all humans, right? We're growing up in the soup. So we all have judgments. But the best is to suspend them because it will kill your curiosity around somebody else. You have to be able to share about yourself and your own, this is like from organizing language, but your own experiences of power or powerlessness. When have you felt powerless? When have you felt harmed by the public arena, the laws and things that are happening in our country right now? And when have you felt powerful? All right? And then inviting others to do the same. Okay. Lastly, you'll see the note at the bottom. You want to write up notes, especially if you're going to do this in a systematic way in your congregation. You want to know what you heard. And I don't know about you all, but my memory, as you can see, with two small children, my memory is shot. So I have to take down notes. I'll be like, oh, I met with so-and-so. I think she was interested, but you don't want to do it in the meeting. Why would you not want to do it in the meeting?
Because then it looks like an interview.
Yeah, and you're making a face. Why would you not want to do it in the meeting?
I mean, if you're taking notes and that's like an interview. That's you're dictating.
Yeah, it's like, would you want to share your vulnerabilities if someone's like across from you taking note? Like, I'm like, ooh, right? Like, no, right? It would just turn off the whole thing. But you do want to make some notes so you know, right? Especially if you're going to try to listen to your congregation around what's going on in the congregation. You want to sense what people are saying. So you want to jot down some notes, but you don't want to do it in the moment. That's just like a bad look. Okay, go ahead. All right. So, I would like to model what a one-to-one is. I can tell you what it is, but it's much more clear and intriguing if we model one. So I'm wondering if someone would be willing to come up here with me, and I will be the organizer or the person doing the one-to-one. You will be the person answering, and it'll be like 10 minutes, and then we'll just debrief it. Do I have someone who's willing to do it? You look like you're being voluntold. Do you? No? Okay. That's what you get to decide, not me. Is someone willing to be brave? All right, come on. Would you want to come on up here? Why don't you bring your chair? Because I feel like sitting will be more comfortable than us standing up here. All right, and then this is my daughter, Adelina. She's just going to be along for the ride. What is your name?
Benny.
Why are you here today?
Because I'm a part of my church, Love Revolution. So.
You're gonna have to forever share this. If I yell really loud, can you hear me? Okay, I'm gonna let Benny have the mic and I'll just project. Okay. Can you share it again?
I'm a part of my church's Love Revolution team.
Okay. And why did you join the team?
It was just a way to help out my church.
How long have you been part of the church?
Like my whole life.
Your whole life? Wow. What has your church meant for you?
I see my church as like a second family, almost like a pillar I can lay on when time gets tough.
Yeah. Have you had tough times?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to share one?
I've had a tough time when my grandma passed away.
I'm sorry to hear that. What was your grandma like?
She was very sweet. She was like a good representation of what I would want to be as a parent or as an older person.
As an older person? Yeah. She sounds important to you? Yeah. What was her name?
Her name was Limu. Well, most people just call her Mama too.
Mom too. Thank you for sharing about her. How old are you? Can I ask?
Yeah, I'm 16.
You're 16, amazing, and you're a part of your church, like an active member. What are you like? I mean, as a 16-year-old in the world right now, watching what's happening in our country and in the world, what are you feeling most worried about?
I'm just worried about the future. Like, what will it hold for me as like a person? Like, what are the benefits I would have? What are some things I would lose? It's like, I'm just worried about what's gonna happen tomorrow, basically.
Yeah, I share those concerns. I have two kids, and I'm really worried about what we're going to be offering for them. What do you want for yourself?
I just want to live a life that is going to satisfy God, because when we really realize it, that this life we live in right now is not going to mean nothing, because this life is so temporary, but our real life is when we actually enter into God's presence, which is heaven. So I just want to live a life that's going to be pleasing to the Father.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I'm wondering about so you participate in your church because it's like home for you, in your second home, you said. What do you want your church to be for other people?
I want other people to experience or find that same love that I see in my church, so they can experience it also, that if they have a problem, they have a firm solution or foundation that they can come to anytime they need to.
What do you see people in your community rest? Like you said, the church was there for you when you needed them. What do you see in your community? What are some of the things happening that people might need to lean on the church for? What are some of the concerns in your communities?
A lot of concerns like money-wise, food-wise, and my church has been trying to help as they do a food pantry where they give out free food every Tuesday and Thursday. So it's like those little concerns that people have, my church is trying to step in and see what ways we could help the best ways we can.
Yeah. Why do you think people are having trouble with money?
I will probably blame that more on AI, because now the life we're living, robots and AI is now taking jobs that people are supposed to be working in.
Yeah, there's not enough good paying jobs for our people. Yeah. I feel that in my family too. My dad's having a hard time finding good paying work. My husband's looking for a new job. What, sorry, she's distracting me. Have you and your family experienced that same trouble finding a good job?
I wouldn't think so, not that I would know of. Maybe like future-wise, if I'm trying to get a job or like a cashier or something, maybe it might already be taken from a self-checkout center. So. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna pause there. Is that all right, Benny? Right?
Yeah.
Can we give a huge round of applause for Benny? Can you stay here for a second? Yeah. All right. Benny. So we're gonna debrief that now. I hope you all could hear me enough. Benny, what was that like for you?
It felt like I was talking to like somebody I could relate to, somebody that actually want to listen to me and like understand me.
Did you feel kind of comfortable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was there a moment that felt a little uncomfortable for you? No? I think that's it for now. Let's give Benny a giant mail up. His courage. I'm curious about why you volunteered.
I know we was talking about being brave, so.
All right. He said, all right. He's modeling by example, the courage. All right. I love it. He said, did you everyone hear him? He said, you were talking about being brave. So I volunteered. Thank you, Benny. Can we do the next slide? So we're going to debrief. We're going to debrief a mini one-to-one. That was quick. It was 10 minutes, right? Okay. So it was like fast. So I want to hear from you all. What struck you most about that one-to-one?
Like, respectfully, it felt very much like an interview, and possibly that was because there was like literally a mic that needed.
Yeah.
But I also come into this, I like have a little scar where it comes to the term one-on-one, because when I went to seminary, someone sat down with a one-on-one for me, and I thought they wanted to get to know me. And at the end of it, they said, great, because pastor says we have to get 5 one-on-ones. So I just did my first one.
Oof. Oof.
That sucked.
Yes.
Never participated with any of those people again. And I like went to school.
Yeah.
Like, it was awful. And so like, maybe even if you like are doing them like in your head with your church, maybe don't use that language. Because it is organizer language. It is like specific language. And I mean, y'all know where I come from. Like, I don't think that language is that useful in a congregational context where that's your family. I don't need a one-on-one to talk to my family. We're just having coffee together, you know? So that's me. Okay.
Yeah. No, what's your name? Taylor? Hi, Pastor Taylor. Yeah, a couple of things I would say. Like, one, I appreciate you saying, like, it felt like a little bit like an interview. I think it did. And you know what it was for me? When I usually do one-to-ones, I'm usually trying to figure out someone's self-interest in an organizing campaign. But here I was like, what am I trying to really do with Benny? Like, because Benny and I are like, y'all are going to do them to a list. So I was struggling to figure out, like, what do I really want to know about Benny? And I was kind of cold. I really didn't know Benny at all. And I was trying to do it in 10 minutes. So it makes sense why that felt that way. I appreciate that feedback. It sounds like, let's talk about what they did wrong when you did a one-to-one, is like, it felt transactional. Didn't feel like they were actually interested in you. Yeah, that's not okay. And I'm sorry you had that experience. It shouldn't feel that way. Yeah, someone should actually be deeply curious about you. Yeah. Others, what struck you about the one-to-one? Or where did I model courage and vulnerability? Where did I not?
Go ahead.
I thought when he shared about grief, that would have been a real opportunity, because we've all experienced grief, to make a deeper connection.
Yeah.
By being a little vulnerable about your own grief.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Others? Go ahead.
I could actively see you following the conversation. So Benny was more in charge than you were of where the conversation was going.
Yeah.
I found that helpful. And also where he started talking about needs in the community and you spoke about your own father and husband.
Yeah.
You sharing that.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah. So like I was trying to figure out. So the I had here was like the reason that was helpful about the grief conversation. I didn't go too far into grief because grief is really about, I appreciate, what I was actually looking for is Benny's grandmother was very important to him. And so Benny's he's most likely probably going to willing to take some action around around his grandma and his family. That's what I learned. What I learned about Benny is that Benny cares deeply about his family and about his community and his church. That's what I learned there. I didn't go into grief because I'm not a grief therapist and I'm not like a pastor, right? So I was trying to maintain those boundaries. That's why I didn't do that. But I was trying to look for public issues. So what are the places of public things that Benny might want to be involved in the church or in my sense in organizing, right? So that's what those would explain some of those choices. But thank you. Go ahead.
I like when you had uncomfortable, like what can be an uncomfortable conversation like about grief. That can be uncomfortable for the person asking the question, that you didn't dive into your grief. Because I know that's a tendency, like I get uncomfortable and I'll start talking, well, when I lost my dad, and now it's about me and I feel a little better from talking about me, that we're able to keep it deeply curious, but still about Benny and what was going on, you know, what you wanted to get to know about Benny. It felt very personal without indulging yourself.
Yeah, I wasn't there for me. I was there to get to know Benny. So let's talk about that. What did we learn about Benny? What's important to Benny? The church, family,
Future.
his future. He's worried about his future. What else is Benny concerned about? What does Benny want for himself in the world? He wants to live a life honorable to God. Yep. He's doing that by serving his church.
He also talked about he's worried about others.
Yep. He's worried about others and what's happening in his congregation around particularly people not having high-paying jobs. Right? And food, yeah. So what might Benny, if I had to imagine, right? Let's like extrapolate a little bit. If I had to imagine our congregation trying to put together a new ministry, or what might be like something that I might go back to Benny and say, like, I think this might be of your interest.
Wait, like youth, something that's happening like the youth.
Yeah. Did he talk about youth?
Well, he more so talked about like his, like how he's like. It's a little hard because I already know.
You know Benny. So you know youth's important to him already, don't you? All right, that's fair enough. Yeah, right? But can you imagine if we extrapolate, like if we were starting a ministry to deal with low-paying jobs in our community, like going back to Benny and saying, I think you should be on the leadership team, right? Like it's like I know, but because I know that's actually Benny wants that, not because I have to put him somewhere. That's the difference. Do we feel that? It's like, not like I have to fill the ministry team, so like I talk to these 10 people, can you do it? I know Benny cares about that. And Benny gets to say yes or no. Benny also can say, actually, no, Sarah, that's not what I want to do. And I'd be like, that's fair, right? It's actually just about him. Does that make sense? Okay, go ahead.
And I really like that in that scenario, you're looking at Benny for what he actually cares about and not just, so this is a young person, so let's shoehorn him into this young person.
Yeah. Benny's looking at the whole world. He's looking at his future going, what on earth? And I'm already seeing impacts of it in my congregation, right? Yeah. We're going to take 2 more, and then you all are going to practice. But go ahead. I saw another hand. Who was the other hand? It was somewhere over here. Did I make it up? Okay, go ahead.
So he said he wanted the others in his community to know the love that he had found in the church. So I might try and encourage him to be in leadership and evangelism.
Yeah, exactly. Yup. So we had like learning what's like important for him. What question did I ask that felt risky to you? That you were like, oh God, I can't believe she asked that. Was there any questions?
How do you feel about the world right now?
How do you feel about the world right now? That felt risky?
Yeah, because
Why did that feel risky to you?
Because we're so purple.
Ah.
We're so purple that if you ask that question, what you have in your mind might be different than Benny has.
Yeah, it's
So if you ask that question right now, that I think is very risky.
Yeah, it's risky because it is risky. You want to know why it's risky to ask any question? You're not in control. They might say something that you then have to like sit with and walk through. Yeah, absolutely. Was there another place I asked a question that felt risky?
Go ahead.
Are you experiencing that in your family?
Yeah.
You asked them to really expose something that could be very protective of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I tell you about that question, how important that is? It is absolutely probably the riskiest thing I did in this room, I think, or the most uncommon. I have sat with hundreds of people, and they'll be telling me, I care really about incarceration. I care about the criminal justice system. I care about this, like, and they'll be going on and on and on. And it'll be like super up here. And then finally I'll get the courage and go, has someone in your family been incarcerated or have you been? And they'll be like, yeah, my brother. But they were too ashamed to tell me. It's like removing shit. So it's like, it takes courage because it's an uncommon, it's like, oh, you can be nosy about that, right? Like, it's like, oh, that's a little nosy of me, right? But if I don't ask it, we stay in our shame around it. And there's nothing to be shamed about can't find a job. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in the fact that there aren't good enough paying jobs for everybody in this country. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in the fact that people are incarcerated. Like, do you see what I'm saying? And so it's like, if you have to, or housing, I really care about housing, or I'm really like, are you having trouble with your mortgage and your rent? Whew. That is a risky that is a risk, but it reduces shame. Shame cannot live in the light. It can't. And then it's like, oh, I have had that same experience. Let me tell you about my husband. He's looking for work and he can't find it. Right? Like, it's like now suddenly Benny ain't alone in that. Right? That's like the sacredness of this. Okay. So I know there's hands, but we want to practice. So I'm going to find my watch, 2:00. Okay. So here's the invitation. I'm going to give you the whole instructions before you get up and move. The invitation is to find somebody you don't know in the room. I'm going to set a timer. You are going to decide who is the person who's doing the one-to-one and who is kind of the person who's like more sharing. And you're going to have like, I'm going to give you like 12 minutes. And then I'm going to hit like, and then I'm going to say, time's up, okay? And then I'm going to invite you to find a new person. Hi, honey. I know, honey. And you're going to try again. And if you were the listener, try to find somebody who was the doer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, try to find so you can practice the other direction. So everyone should practice a one-to-one, and everyone should be part of a one-to-one. Okay? Is that clear? Okay. So why don't you go find partners, and then I will start the clock. All right. And then you'll have 12 minutes again. So it's like 24 minutes total. Okay?